God was just kind of showing up in really supernatural ways that they were very undeniable. And I could kind of feel as if he was angry too. I felt like he was angry with me. I felt like he was telling me, like, I'm sorry this has happened to you.
So today I'm sitting down with my friends Roger and Tiffany Hazelwood to talk about their story, which is a tragic story of the murder of their daughter Mercedes. And the reason I want to talk about this is because of how they have responded in faith and hope and trust in God, as opposed to what many of us would respond with bitterness and resentment. And it's probably going to be an emotional conversation, but I'm sure it's going to be a good one. So come join me. All right, well, Tiffany, Roger, thank y'all so much for your willingness to have this conversation. And I know y'all have been through a lot, and yet the Lord has led y'all in ways that are hard even for us to fully articulate. And so we're going to do our best just to have a conversation about all this. But why don't you talk about Mercedes? Why don't you back up and tell me a little bit about who Mercedes was and kind of what the experience was like.
Okay, so Mercedes I was 15 when I had Mercedes, so we kind of grew up together. She was born the day before 9/11.
Oh, wow.
So she just brought so much joy into our life in such a tragic time, and I was just so young. So she's the oldest of three, and she was just the smartest, kindest, the most bubbliest person. She just had such a wonderful personality, and she didn't grow up with God in her life, but when I turned my life over to God and brought my family with me, she just had this love and this passion for the Lord that was just, it was just so beautiful to watch her worship. It was so beautiful to watch her just praise and, go to these retreats and things like that, and to see her baptized, and just she had a lot of love for the Lord, and she just was a sweet kid.
I know this could be emotional to talk about, but Mercedes passed in 2019. Is that right? Quite shocking circumstances.
Yes.
Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
So it was the summer of 2019. Mercedes was itching to do some summer stuff and things like that, and we were a little opposed to it because it was late at night and stuff. So she decided that she was going to sneak out of the house against, our wishes of her not going out that night. And she decided to leave the house at night, and normally her and her sister are always together, but this time she decided to go by herself. And she left and went across the street to an apartment complex and supposedly met up with someone. We really don't know the full story yet. It's not came out. There's been a lot of speculation and things and stuff, but we're not actually sure exactly what happened. But the next morning, I woke up. It was my mom's birthday. She passed away on my mom's birthday. And my mom was in town, and she always liked to sleep in. So I went to wake the girls up so we could go get my mom a cake and some things while she was sleeping in. And I noticed that Savannah was on the bottom bunk, and I woke up Savannah and then went to reach up to the top bunk and noticed it was just pillows, that she wasn't actually in the bed. And I went into full-blown panic mode.
Yeah.
And I woke up Savannah on the bottom bunk, and I'm just freaking out. And Savannah's like, "Mom, calm down, it's okay, it's okay." And she was able to log into Mercedes' Snapchat from her phone. And we saw the messages between her and this boy that she was talking to. And so we knew where she was going. And so we jumped in the car, we went over there, and we were looking for her. We went to the pool, we saw the maintenance man out there, and we were like, well, she wouldn't be out there if the maintenance man is out there. And so we went knocking on the guy's door, and his brother came out. And he wouldn't let us go in, he wouldn't let us look for her, and we just had this eerie feeling. Because he said, no, I haven't seen her, no, she hasn't shown up, and things like that. So me and Savannah jumped in the car, we went back home, and I called the police, the Johns Creek Police Department. And I remember him saying, she's probably just out somewhere, she'll be home, it hasn't been 24 hours, things like this. And I just remember I grabbed his arm like this right here, and I said, look, something's wrong. I can tell. I can feel it. And he just kind of looked at me, and then he was like, okay. I'll go ahead and put in the missing persons report. And he said, I'll check all the hospitals, I'll check the jails. He said, I'll do all that, and I'll let you know something soon. So as soon as he pulls off, me and Savannah, we take off Roger's at work this whole time. We take off walking because we drove the last times, but I was trying to trace her steps from the house to the apartment complex.
Yeah.
And so we take off walking. I'm hollering her name and just looking everywhere for her. And by the time we got back to the apartment complex, you could see the yellow tape. And you could see the police officers, you could see the coroner. Just in a matter of 45 minutes, from the time we left there to the time we came home and called the police and went back, all that was there.
Oh, wow.
And I found out that I wasn't but maybe 250 feet away from her and didn't even know it. Wow. Because I felt, and at that, I look back now and I feel like maybe that was the Lord protecting me from seeing that. Because she was right there. She was at the pool. So the maintenance man found her. She was naked, except for her top was lifted up here. She was fully naked, and she was placed underneath some pine straw and some stuff, and she was hidden behind the gazebo. We later found out that there was DNA found that was the brothers that we met at the door. And that's not even who she was supposed to go see. She was supposed to see his brother. And it's a little confusing, but so then we realized that just something really bad had happened to her. And I just remember screaming and just crying out, and then I just remember going silent too. Like I couldn't say anything. I was just like in complete shock. And we sat there with the police officer. He finally made us go home. He wouldn't let us stay outside of the crime scene because we were just there sitting on the curb.
Yeah.
They finally said, we're gonna have a police escort you back home and wait with you. And we waited there all day long for them to come back and say it was her. And before they could even come back and say it was her, it was on the news. The school had called. And it was just like, you have that little bit of hope, like it's not her. She's about to, all day we just knew she was about to come in the house. It's been a big mistake. And then that was the start of a journey.
How old was she at this time?
17.
She was 17. Wow. And Roger, you were at work during all this time.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind? At what point did you kind of realize how serious this was?
Well, like Tiffany kind of touched on it briefly about the night before, that they was wanting to go out, and like Tiffany had mentioned, it was her mom's birthday. And so we all had dinner that night, and we were all just kind of sitting around watching television, and one at a time, everybody started kind of dispersing off to bed. and it was me and Mercedes was the last one downstairs. I had gotten up to go outside on the porch. It was a nice summer night. I got up to go outside, and as I'm going out the door, I look back and I see Mercedes. She's looking at her phone, and she just looks up at me and just gives me this big smile. And I just smiled back, and I went outside, and when I came back in, she had done went to bed. That's the last time I remember seeing Mercedes.
Yeah.
And the next morning, I got up to go to work. Everything looked in place. I got up pretty early. I was working outside that day, so I left and went to work, and I was working, and I don't know, maybe 9:30 or so, Tiffany calls and tells me that Mercedes is not home, and she had made a police report, and I knew right away that something bad had happened because I know our kids, and she snuck out before, but I knew in my mind that there's no way she wouldn't have returned before us waking up and discovering that she was gone. So that told me right away that something bad had happened.
Yeah.
And so I literally just stopped everything I was doing and headed home. And as I'm heading home, I passed the place where it happened. And when I drove by there, I seen the tape, I seen Tiffany, her mom, Savannah, and the police out there. I quickly turned around, and that's when my worst fears were confirmed. So.
Yeah. Wow. I can only imagine, and I wouldn't want to even try. Just to imagine how y'all felt during that time. It's been 6 years now, and we've talked about this a little bit before, but to just hear you describe it, it's just it's heart-wrenching. Mm-hmm. What was the first couple months like following that?
I was angry.
Yeah.
I questioned God. I questioned, just everything. But I couldn't function. We came really close together as a family. Even the kids, they pulled their mattresses into our room, and I know we stayed in my room for like 6 months. We ate in my room, we slept in my room, we watched TVs in my room. We were in my room 24/7, just all of us. And people would come and check on us. There would be meal trains, and of course, at first, you do the funeral planning, which I couldn't even wrap my mind around that. But God was just kind of showing up in really supernatural ways that they were very undeniable. And I could kind of feel as if he was angry too. I felt like he was angry with me. I felt like he was telling me, like, I'm sorry this has happened to you, and I just don't know. I could feel like he was angry that it happened to her too.
Yeah.
And I remember we were about to sign the paperwork. This was the first supernatural thing that kind of happened. We were about to sign the paperwork. We didn't have a whole lot of money. We didn't know how we were gonna afford a funeral and all this stuff. And I was about to sign the paperwork for her body to be released, and after the autopsy, and be cremated. But the
Corral Brothers?
No, the coroner. Yeah, the coroner's office was going to allow me to visit for 30 minutes, and then she would go straight into crematory, and that was pretty much our budget.
Yeah.
And I signed the paperwork, and I gave it to a friend of mine. Her name is Jasmine Turner, and she was going to take the paperwork and get it to the coroner's office for me. And I get a phone call, and it's Corral Brothers Funeral Home. And he was just like, Miss Sims, we have been trying to find you. We have been trying to contact you. We've contacted the news. We've contacted so many people trying to get in touch with you. He said, we want to do the entire funeral for you at no cost.
Oh my.
Whatever you want. The sky's the limit. You can have whatever you want. We'll cover the whole entire cost. Mm-hmm. So my heart just dropped, and I knew right away that was God. Mm-hmm. I just knew right away that he was already moving in these areas. I was still angry.
Yeah.
Still angry.
Yeah, of course.
But I remember jumping off the phone and calling Jasmine, like, tear that paper up. Do not give it. Don't do it. She was like, I haven't took it yet. Don't worry about it. It's fine. And then so that's when the actual funeral arrangements and stuff started to be made. And they gave me 3 days with her. And so I was up there from the time the funeral home opened to pretty much till the time they closed for 3 days. Then, you know, family was in, and you just had so much going on. You want to make sure this is perfect and this is right and this is done, and you know, you want to make sure she's pretty and she's wearing the right thing and all this, and at the same time you want to make sure your husband's okay and your kids are okay and the food looks good, and you know, it's just so much going on. And then, you know, that all abruptly stops the very next day of the funeral. All that's gone, and then you feel just the silence. It's not silence though, it's like the silence around you stops, and then the loudness inside of you, it's just like so loud in here. So then when the people are gone and things are just, it's a constant replay in your head. You just are constantly replaying, and it's for me personally, and it was just really hard to shut off.
Yeah.
And so just being with my family in that bedroom, and just, even though we weren't doing nothing but eating and sleeping, and just, I mean, that was our comfort.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have the pleasure of meeting Mercedes. I've seen her pictures, just so beautiful and so full of life, and mourning a child is hard enough whenever they pass. That's hard enough. In this particular case, the circumstances with which she passed are just unthinkable. So y'all were managing a lot of thoughts, but what did that process look like, or has that process looked like, you know, on the other side of things?
Well, like I said, I was angry, and I went back and forth with God. Why did you let this happen? Why couldn't you save her? Why couldn't you wake me up? And then, like I spoke about earlier, I felt like he was trying to communicate with me that he was angry too. You know, that he didn't want this to happen just as much as anything else. And the reality was I had a choice. I could either be angry at God, be bitter, and walk away from it all, or I could choose to trust God, and I could choose to gravitate towards Him. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
I chose to gravitate towards God, and that's what I did. And the more I gravitated towards Him, the closer I felt to her.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I remember looking back now, and there's so much that I cannot remember of the funeral, of those moments, because I was just kind of, you know, I don't know how to describe it, but I can feel God literally He was carrying me.
Yeah.
Like, I think about the footprints in the sand. And that's that whole season, that whole time.
Yes.
I felt like the Lord was carrying me completely through all of that, and all of my strength, all of everything just came directly from Him. And when you realize that, then you realize being angry and being bitter, and distancing yourself from God is. I can imagine how much more painful it would have been.
Yeah.
I think about my relationship with God now, and I think about any kind of separation from Him and how painful that is. But another supernatural way that He showed up was, it had been several months, and I was really depressed. I wasn't working, and North Atlanta Church of Christ reached out to me, and they were like, "Hey, we have this position open. It's cleaning the church. It's during the week. We'd love for you to come and work here." Oh no, I just want to waller, but you know, the Lord really pulled me to do so. And I had been there a couple weeks, and one Monday after Sunday, I went to clean the sanctuary like I always do, and I'm just getting little communion cups up and, you know, prayer cards and just put in the bag. And as I'm going up the steps, I look over and I see a prayer card on the ground, and I go to grab it, and instead of just tossing it in the bag like I always do, I looked at it. And it was Mercedes had filled it out.
Oh, man.
When she was like 10 or 11 years old. It was that old. That's what I don't understand.
Wow.
She had tried to write in cursive, and she had her old address on there. It wasn't, the prayer card is on one side and the communication card is on that side.
Yeah.
And that's what she was filling out, was the communication card. And I let out this biggest like noise, like it just, and I just kind of fell right there on the pew, and I just cried and cried and cried. And this thing has sat right here in this spot for all this time. For me to find, that was God.
Wow, of course.
And so like I just felt like he was trying to communicate with me and trying to tell me that that he's got her, and then I just feel like he's been doing that ever since.
Yeah.
Just showing favor and just blessing me because I've stayed consistent.
Yeah.
And so I feel that from God a lot.
I'm sure.
It's hard not to not, you know. And there's times when you're down, and there's times when you maybe, you know, I always try to remember those moments because they bring me back out of my selfishness or my complaining or, you know, things like that, or my doubt, you know, things like that. I just remember those moments that are just absolutely from God, and they can't be from anything else. And I hold on to those. And when my faith is weak and things like that, it just makes it stronger.
Yeah. That's beautiful, Tiffany. Just a couple more thoughts here. Have y'all had to face the person who committed this crime, and what does that look like in the legal side of things and courts, and what does that process look like?
We've been very, the justice system has failed us as a family. It's a very broken system. He has pretty much been invisible for the last 6 years. He's went in and out of jail and things on previous charges, and for some reason the paperwork is never filed in Fulton County for him to be arrested and held there. So he was arrested right away, and he posted bond after he did some time in prison on a previous charge. So by the time he got out, so he was out and about in the community and stuff, and he's been that way ever since. Fulton County failed to issue the warrant for his arrest for failure to appear when he didn't show up for his indictment. They also failed to do a bond revocation when he got previous charges. And so we're working with a new district attorney now, and so there's a lot of hope. We met with her, which is something we hadn't met with anybody. It's just been floating. She's been passed on, but I just, you know, I have faith in God, and I have to tell myself, and I have to remember, like, it's not my timing. It's God's timing. And whether it takes 1 year to 10 years, whatever is going on, I know that God is working behind the scenes just as he's always been. And he's moving. Whether I see it or not, he's moving. And so I just have to be patient. It's not easy. It's not easy to be patient. But I know, that, it's justice will be served in the way that God wants it to be served, not the way that I want it to be served or anything else. But yes, I saw him at our convenience store by our house.
Oh my, what was that like?
I chased him. I ran after him on foot, and I didn't think about my consequences or anything. I didn't catch him. He was a lot faster than me. But I said, when I saw him, he took off running. And my first instinct was to take off after him. He ran right out of his shoes. But I got back in the car, and that's the first time and only time I've seen him in person, except for we finally had our first court hearing where he came on and pled not guilty. It was via Zoom. And so now this whole process is having to pretty much start from the beginning. And so I'm sure soon we'll, my hopes are to take it to trial, because I want to know what happened. For not knowing exactly what happened for the last 6 years has just been so hard.
Oh, I'm sure.
And you in your mind you think, oh well, it had to go this way, or this happened, or you think about all these things, and probably none of them are correct, And I've just prayed that God will just show me the truth, as painful as it might be. I just want to know the truth.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I pray that you get that opportunity to get justice and to learn the truth of what happened. But I really am amazed that your faith has actually grown during this time, and that you have leaned on each other and leaned on the Lord. Why do you think that is? When you had the opportunity to go one way or another, as you said a minute ago, why do you think you went the way of God instead of the way of bitterness and resentment and running away?
For me, it's pretty simple. I knew what my life was like before I met Christ, and there was no other option for me. I've been through a lot in my life leading up to the passing of our daughter Mercedes, and without my relationship with Christ, I don't think I would have handled it the same way that I did, because the old me would have reacted first and faced the consequences later. But like I said, I've been through a lot leading up to that point, and I realized that I'm not in control, that God's in control. And for me to step outside of that order and take things into my own hands would be detrimental not only to me, but to my family. And I had to think about my wife and my other kids, because the old me wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And it was hard. It was hard. And I remember telling Tiffany right after it happened, look, we need to trust God through this process, because it's not our battle to fight. It is His battle, and it's His timing. And so I just leaned in more and reached out more and stayed in community. I couldn't imagine going through this 6 months before that or a year before that, because I don't know how we would have got through it. And just, our community, our friends, just coming together and just embracing us and loving us and walking through it with us was a real value. And without that, I don't know that we would have been able to get through it the way that we did. And, even to this day, those people that were there then are still here today. And it's just been a blessing in that sense. I mean, it was a tragic incident that occurred. We're still working through it, and it don't get easier. At this point, we're just looking for justice, whatever that looks like, and just trusting God through that process.
Wow.
For me, it's kind of selfish. For me, I knew the only way back to my daughter was through Christ. And I knew that if I turned my back on God, that I would not be with her. I would never see her again. And so I knew how temporary this life was, and that if I wanted to be with her again, that I needed to trust in Christ, and that I needed to gravitate towards Him. And by doing that, my relationship with Christ has just grown so much. But it started out a little selfish. Like, I knew that I had to gravitate towards Christ. I had to believe in Christ, trust Christ, and build that relationship with Him in order to be with her again.
Wow. It's two very mature responses, and like I said, I can't imagine what y'all have been through and where you are now, and not having the justice that you want to see. But I'm so personally inspired by your faith, and so encouraged just to see the way that you trust the Lord and the way that you live lives that are worthy of the gospel of Jesus, that he lived the life that he should have lived, and he died the death that we deserve to die, and he took it all upon himself. And just to see how that's transformed your lives and your marriage and your family and your work and the way that y'all carry yourselves, it's an inspiration to us. And I know you're not looking to be an inspiration. You just want your daughter back, but I want to thank you for that anyway.
And it kind of ties in with our lessons over the last few weeks. Is just resting in God.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of that happens on a daily basis, and I was grateful to hear you bring that up because it just reminds us of where we need to focus our attention.
Yeah.
And I think I was kind of alluding to that a little bit in our conversation in the hallway earlier this morning.
Yeah.
About just being busy and the pressures of this world, and to just it was good to hear you remind us of that, because I think a lot of people need to be reminded of that sometimes.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank y'all for sharing. Is there anything else that you'd like to share at this point? I know you skimmed through a lot of things, but I'd love to give you the opportunity. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Just, I live now to just, to spread hope and to spread joy, because Mercedes isn't here to do so herself. And that's the kind of person that she was. And I just think that, just having the joy of Christ, and you mentioned that today in our sermon, like to be joyful, to be outwardly joyful. And that's one thing that I've had to learn through this entire process, is that, happiness is an external thing and joy is an internal thing. Mm-hmm. And I have a choice, whether to be a victim. And I don't consider myself a victim. I consider myself a survivor. And I just choose every day to try to share what Christ has done, or just to smile, or just to, how are you? Just that outwardly joy, just constantly showing that. And that's definitely something that me and the Lord have worked on together through all of this, and what it looks like to be Christ, the light, that Christ wants us to bring into this world, regardless of your circumstances, regardless of what you've been through, regardless of the pain and the trauma that you've went through. You can still choose to be joyful.
Yeah. Well, I see that joy, and I feel it. It radiates to me and to our church, and to so many others. So thank y'all so much for that.
Well, we love y'all so much.
I love y'all too, and just so confident in the day that the Lord will raise us all up again, and to meet Mercedes then as the Lord intended us to live together. It's going to be a beautiful thing. We'll all look forward to that day.
Yeah, I think about her, and I think about this church and how much she would have loved this church. Yes. And like the young adults group, I see those girls and stuff. I'm like, oh, Mercedes would just absolutely have loved them. And so I miss her in every aspect of our lives. We miss her, but we also know where she is.
Yeah. One day the Lord will come again, and he will make all wrongs right. Yeah. And he will set things the way they should be. There will be justice on that day for sure.
And I just want to try to take as many people with me as I can.
Yeah. Amen. We'll look forward to it. Thank you all again so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Love you guys.
Love you too.